Hey everyone, Marsh from Consequence here. The number one question I get asked on Discord consistently is how do you prep for the raid? And they want tips on bosses or how to handle raiders or something like that. So this video I've been wanting to make for a really, really long time. I'm gearing to be about 10 minutes long. Is how do you prep and how do you handle raiders and how do you manage the guild? And I'm gonna fly through this. Um, so what you see here, this is just the roster. It's just my opening screen. I don't even know if it's fully accurate. Just glancing on it, looks mostly fine. Um, in terms of like mains and alts, because some people like multi-class. We switch it all the time. But the first thing I want to talk about is roster size, because people ask me, how many you hold on your roster? The short answer is 24 to 28. I like 25 and 26 as a number a lot. I try to hover around those numbers. Some guilds, the higher you go up, they will expand their roster more and more, get more trials, have more options. The lower you go down, usually you see less of a roster, more friends, and don't want to bench your friends, and blah 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 blah. So it really depends on what your guild wants to do. All options are fine. Bigger rosters have issues of playtime. Smaller rosters have issues of attendance. Um, I just like try to live in the best of both worlds, but you're never gonna win. That's like one thing I'm doing about a GM. Someone's always gonna find a problem with everything, and you just have to do what's best for everyone, and that's what it comes down to. So that's number one. Number two, what you're gonna see here in the next tab is a splits tab. So this splits tab, it's not the actual splits. That's bait. It's actually I'm counting tunes to figure out how many characters I potentially need for splits. Every guild's gonna do this differently. This is just how I think. One thing, so I mean, you can see here that I've listed like all the potential characters for 30. I started doing normal split 1 and 2. Normal split 3, this is just for normal Gallywicks. We're not actually doing 3 normals. Um, but, I'm trying to see like if it's possible we want to do 3 Gallywicks normals, how many tunes would I need? And this is a very early state, as I said. One thing I want to go back on, actually, with like an overall guild stuff, is if you're going to take one thing out of this video, it actually wants to be this. Your guild needs a guild goal. I'm not saying you need to write it and throw it all over your Discord. If you're a guild master, what is the goal of your guild? If your guild's goal is we want to get the highest world rank possible at all costs, how do you achieve that? If your guild is a 2-day, 6-hour guild, and your goal is to get CE not the last week, how do you do that? And making steps and how you achieve that is really important. So for me, my guild goal is I want to be the best guild we can be without doing anything overly cringe. Like in my mind, like obviously I said that in like not a very articulate way, but in my mind that's what I want. I don't want to do a ton of splits. I don't want to OT. I don't want to viciously recruit and cut people. It's just like not for me, I guess, and not for like the people I recruit in the guild. And I want their vision to be aligned with mine. Obviously, if you want to play in a guild that just wants to grind ranks and slam all the time, 100% do that. There's many guilds that do that, right? Like you just got to pick a guild for you that works for you, and as a GM, making the guild as well, like in your vision, I guess. So most important thing in this video is probably that, because a lot of guilds struggle with like, oh, like a good example is like a 3-day guild being like, oh, let me add a 4th and 5th day and do this and this and this and this. Okay, that's all good if you can get what you want, but be careful with the type of players you recruit. So going down the list here, you can see my arrow, but you can't see it all. This here is basically a checklist of tasks we do before tier. Every tier, it changes depending on the expansion or even the tier. Pre-expansions are usually longer because you need like beta data. But, you can take a screenshot of this, you can take a look. Collection of VODs, Mythic Plus, stuff, crafting stuff, loot priority stuff. The big takeaway here I actually want to talk about is our pre-tier 101s. I think these are extremely important. So when the tier's announced, like 1 or 2 months before it comes out, I do like one-on-ones with all the raiders. I call them one-on-ones, but it's really like officers talking to raiders one at a time. And you ask questions like, I don't know, are you playing? How do you feel about things? Um, do you have any problems with anyone? Do you have any problems in general? Like, are you going on vacation during Prague? These are all questions that you think don't need to be asked, but totally need to be asked because people forget and they're gamers and they don't think like, oh, it's 8 weeks after Prague or 8 weeks, after the tier starts, I might be doing something. Well, depending on your guild speed, that might matter a lot to you. So getting all that information, and you'll also be surprised, like people who are like teetering on playing or not. You can kind of get an answer for them in this meeting. So this is just a checklist that we follow. So next is a schedule. This is basically the same every tier for us. We don't OT. We just do the schedule every time recently, and we follow to a T. Again, this goes back to guild goals. If you want to raid more and slam more, go for it. If you want to raid less, go for it. As long as you're hitting what you want to hit, just send it. So next here, I have my boss preps. These are all going to look really similar. Big takeaways from this, though, is this is the dungeon journal, literally. Copy me handwriting the dungeon journal into the Excel sheet. Then on the right column here, this is like my ideas and how I think things need to be handled. So you would think that like writing all the abilities down like kind of sucks a lot and it's time consuming, and you would be 1,000% correct. It does suck and it's time consuming, but it helps me just like focus on each ability one at a time and understanding it. And then you can see like my notes here of like how I think things should go. This is not even strat related. Like when you watch my guides and I pull this up, like I truly mean this means nothing. These are literally my thoughts. Another thing I'll do is I'll bring in my raid. Like I'll be like, hey, or the officers are gonna uh, go into this channel and Discord at 8 p.m. Eastern and talk about these fights and get ideas. Um, and then we like make the strats as officers, and then any raiders who want to join, they're more than welcome to. So, that is something that we do here. And one thing to note that's also really important in this guild is that communication is very streamlined. Uh, there's no like I don't even want to be GM. I just doing it to do it. Like the officers just are the people who just do the most work in the guild. Like um, voluntarily, right? but um, but like raiders and trials have equal say to everything. Like if they want to be involved, they can be involved. Um, 95% of things they are like I get trials to help me out all the time. So having an open line of communication is really important, like letting people know where they stand in the pre-101 tiers, being really open about things, making sure goals align, and just communicating everything because what is there to hide, right? Like maybe like a few HR related things you hide, maybe like when you're doing loot priority you hide that at the beginning, but that's it. Everything else can be in the open. So as I said, this is the tier. Pink's Mythic, Brown's tank ability, and things like yellow here, like special overlaps, like one arm bandit. That's it. These are my ideas over here. So, and then when I'm prepping, like when I'm sending out the prep to raiders, what I'll do is, well, a Discord bot, or not a bot, a Discord channel with all the boss abilities, which is really normal. And then I'll compact everything into one message. So it'll be like, here is a PTR VOD. Here is my guides, which are also on this channel. Here is someone else's guide. Here's the raid plan. And maybe here are some tips for the bosses. And that's it. Send in the raiders' hands. If they can't handle it, it's going to be obvious in Heroic Week, and you deal with it the whatever way you want to deal with it. If that's replacing or having a conversation or ignoring it, that is up to everyone's discretion depending on your guild goal. So that is everything with this spreadsheet. You can't see at the top, but there's two more. They're really short. So the first one I'm going to show here is our split sheet. So you'll see here we have split 1, split 2, um, and the way we're doing splits is because we only raid a certain amount of hours the first week and we don't OT, we don't want to just like sit there and spam heroic splits or spam normal splits. So we'll split heroic until it makes sense. If that's 6 or 7 out of 8, that's what we'll do. And then we'll do normal the same thing, and then do maybe 3 normal Gallywixes, which should be really fast. And the goal is to get, tier on 20 to 21 people, like 4 sets, and you know, take the I didn't talk about this in the other spreadsheet, but start developing like a mythic roster for each of the bosses. And each guild's gonna be different. Like so for us, we might target 3 to 4, maybe 5 maybe not 5, but 3 to 4 bosses, and kind of building a comp around what we think the hardest boss is, with a combination of like best players, comp related stuff, um, you know, 5 heal, 4 heal, and building backwards from that, while also getting people's, potential vault options open, depending on what easy bosses are. Um, but again, it all starts here where it's like, okay, these are splits and who's being targeted. So you can see here, I'm not going to show this off. This is actually not my spreadsheet. Another officer is in charge of this. I also take no credit for the spreadsheet. I did not make this. This was an X-Rater. Um, but we have a tier priority here. I'm not going to look down there because I think it's final, but I'm not 100% sure at this time because it's changed a few times. But what he's done is he's targeting who gets a weapon in each group, who gets a trinket in each group, who gets a tier in each group at every category, and he's making sure there's a target or two for literally everything in the raid while keeping the raid balanced. Eye level's not shown here, but making sure the eye levels are the same and the raids can move at similar pace. Also, group 1 is slightly stronger always because they're the first time in there. And that's kind of how we do it. And you can see at the bottom here, you're not see all the tabs, but they're basically just like normal Gallywix, normal, and that's it. The other thing I want to show off is a Mythic Plus sign up sheet. I know a lot of other guilds do this. This is not new and innovative. This is not final by any means, but the idea, and also to note, by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these groups have completely like blown up because people's schedules. But this is just helping people like on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe early Friday that need groups. And we're just like helping people find groups, get tanks together, get people online at the same time if they want. 100% optional. Um, and it's just like an organizational system. Other than that, though, I mean, that's really it. I mean, there's some minor things that you need to do as a GM, like checking up on raiders, talking to trials, keeping good vibes, or trying to. But at the end of the day, it's not that complicated. And I feel like a lot of people do a lot more than they think they need to, and then also some people do almost nothing. So, you know, this is my advice. I probably missed a few things, but this is definitely a good starting point. Hopefully this was helpful and I didn't just ramble for 15 minutes, which I probably did, but it is what it is. And good luck in the upcoming tier. Have a good one. Peace.